Hello, welcome. This video is about trig ratios, and this is at the approaching proficient level, and it asks us to identify the trig ratios of the right triangle below. If you watch the triangle, or, excuse me, if you watch the video before this, then you'll know about where to put your opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. And if you haven't watched that, and I'll explain that in that other video. But this is the first thing that we would want to do. They've asked us for the sine of A, the sine of cosine, or excuse me, the cosine of A, and the tangent of A. Again, this is sine, so it's pronounced like that, even though it's written like sin. We don't say sin. Just like here, we don't say etk, we say etc. Same thing here. This is the sine. This is the cosine. And this is the tangent. And they indicate ratios in a right triangle. So we have this thing, this mnemonic to help us remember. You recall that PEMDAS is kind of a nonsense word, but it's a mnemonic, a device to help us remember. The P stands for parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, and subtract in that order to help us remember the order of operations. We have another mnemonic that doesn't mean anything by itself, but it helps us to remember, and it goes so, ka, toa. I encourage my students to write this not just S-O-H, but S-O-H. So remember that the sine is the opposite of the hypotenuse. Ka. So ka. There's the ka. C-A-H. So ka. That's the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And then toa is the opposite over the adjacent. And so if you label it, then you know what we're talking about. Here is A, since we're looking at A in each of these cases, cosine of A, sine of A, and the tangent of A, then I'm going to label this here A. And a lot of times we use the Greek letter theta to help us remember, and it looks kind of like a zero, but that is theta. And so since I'm doing that, I can look at this and point out from there, that is the opposite leg. And then the one right next to it, or maybe we should first talk about the hypotenuse. You probably should identify the hypotenuse first. The hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle. So that is my hypotenuse. I'm just going to put H for hypotenuse. And then the side that's right next to the angle, next to means adjacent. And so this is the adjacent side. So when I'm looking at the sine of A, then I know that that's from the mnemonic so, ka, toa. This is going to tell me that the sine is, since I've got it labeled, if the sine of this angle A is the opposite over the hypotenuse, well, the opposite is 20. So I would put 20 there. And the hypotenuse is 25. So here I would put 25. And that's what we would put. 20 over 25. Now, if you could simplify, you want to simplify that, that'd be fine. If your teacher asks you to simplify it, you can divide both of those. 20 and 25 are both multiples of 5. 5 goes into 20 4 times, and 5 goes into 25 5 times. So you could also say then here 4/5. The cosine is, let's use blue. The cosine is A over H. So if the cosine of A is the adjacent over, I think I only labeled these with the letters, so adjacent over the hypotenuse. That's confused with A. We'll just put ADJ. The adjacent over the hypotenuse. Well, the adjacent is this one, the 15. So I'm just going to replace that adjacent here with 15. And the hypotenuse, again, still 25. Oops, here. 25. And so then I can just write that the cosine of A, 15 over 25. That's what it is. 15 over 25. Once again, this is divisible. Both of those are divisible by 5. So I could divide 15 by 5 and get 3, and 25 divided by 5, I get 3/5. And then finally over here, the tangent. Toa. The tangent of A is toa. So let's see what that looks like here. The tangent of A is equal to opposite over adjacent. And the opposite, we've already got them labeled, so this is not hard. If you've labeled it correctly, that's really the hardest part here. The opposite is 20, and the adjacent is 15. So it's O over A, toa. So O is 20, and the A, the adjacent, is 15. So the tangent is 20 over 15. And again, both of these are divisible by 5. So this would, 20 divided by 5 would be 4, and 15 divided by 5 is 3. And so this would be 4/3 in this case. Ahora, en español. En este nos dice que identifica los ratios, las razones trigonométricas del triángulo rectángulo below, abajo, Entonces, en otro video hablamos de cómo poner las etiquetas. Si quieres verlo, es lo del básico, del below proficient. Y approaching proficient, vamos a ver, dice, creo que ya lo dije, identifica las razones trigonométricas del triángulo rectángulo abajo. Identify the trig ratios of the right triangle below. Y ahí nos está diciendo en inglés se llama sine, cosine y sine, y tan se refiere a tangent. Entonces, primero vamos a poner las etiquetas. Todo se habla de A, ese sine de A, del ángulo que está en A. Cosine A, tangent A. Entonces, vamos aquí a A y ponemos el símbolo de la letra griega Z. Y ahí ponemos Z y si señalas, bueno, primero ponemos la hipotenusa. Siempre es opuesto del ángulo recto. Esto entonces es H de hipotenusa. Entonces señalamos desde el ángulo al otro lado y este es el lado opuesto. O por opuesto, vamos a poner OP por opuesto. Y adyacente, si te acuerdas del otro video, dice que eso es el lado al costado, significa al costado de, y eso, entonces es A de adyacente, vamos a poner A de adyacente, adyacente. En español es adyacente con Y, con Y. En español, perdón, en inglés es con J, adjacent. Entonces, tenemos cosa que nos ayuda a recordar, es so, ka, toa. So, ka, toa. Y el S, la S de so, se refiere al sine. El O, el opuesto, y la H, hipotenusa. Y ya que lo tenemos con las etiquetas, podemos ver que el O es 20 y ponemos 20. En vez de O, ese O sobre H, 20, y H, 25, 20 sobre 25. Y si eso, entonces la razón trigonométrica, 20 sobre 25, pero se puede simplificar. 20 sobre 25. Lo puedes hacer en la calculadora, te acuerdas de ese de math, enter. Pero también se puede dividir ambos, 20 y 25 entre 5. 20 entre 5 es 4. 25 entre 5 es 5. Y luego el cosine. Eso ya hicimos. Y el cosine es K, A sobre H. A, el adyacente sobre H, 25, 15 sobre 25. Si lo pones 15 sobre 25, se simplifica, se divide entre 5 y entre 5 das 3 quintos. Y luego el tangent es TOA. TOA. Y es O sobre A. 20 O sobre A. Sobre A, que en este caso 15. Entonces tenemos 20 sobre 15. Y esto es el tangent. Y en este caso, el tangent 20 sobre 15 se divide, se simplifica, da 4 tercios. Entonces, así como se hace. Siga para adelante.